important for you? We touched on it a little bit before, but why do we focus on Repro? We talked about the efficiency. Can you elaborate there a wee bit?
Yeah, we talked about it on the walk up there, but it's sort of, I think it's with that meat vein, that's where the idea first originated from. But it was like creating a win-win. So how can we be more profitable, chase that efficiency with meat vein, without the costs of the business much.
Awesome. And so then I guess the perfect question from there is like, we've been told that we should do this, but what are the steps that you've taken to make this happen?
We're
starting maybe with the Repro first, and then we can move on to the genetics.
Okay, so sound Repro. The Repro, like we keep it pretty simple. Like it's just been like incremental gains over 9 years. Like cows that calved early get in calf. So at an early calving herd, it's easy to be early calving the following year. And if you can make a 2% gain consistently, well then you're on the right track, I think. So it's like, I never really got too focused on 6 week at all, and it's just sort of we were tracking in the right direction, so we just sort of carried on doing what we were doing. I think maybe because of the system a bit, because of low stocking rate and good farm and irrigated pastures and all that, but we don't have to focus on body condition score. Cows in the condition it's in, and if she's a little bit skinnier, then working a bit harder, and it's up to her to get in calf. If she doesn't get in calf, we're not breeding from her. I think, honestly, I think just heat protection is like most important. Just mating cows that are on heat, and if you're not sure, I don't put them up, because like you see a cow come on heat, after 5 days, she'll return, you're questioning yourself. She wasn't on heat the first time, she probably was the second time. The little thing we do there is we write the date that they were mated on their back, tail paint, or in spray paint when we tail paint them. And so that's just like a wee indicator as they come around when we last mated. But yeah, I wouldn't stress enough how important just inflowing cows that are actually on heat.
Yeah, awesome. So on page 30 in the handout, there is a fertility focus report. And this one boggled my mind away, but when I first saw it, because your heat detection score is pretty crap, and your 3-week submission rate was as well. So do you want to give us a bit of an insight about why that's different, which would be your 2 herds?
Yeah.
So it had a 50% 3-week submission rate, but then a 54% in calf rate out of that, and I was confused.
Yeah, so like chasing the genetic game, we just we were putting the bottom of the herd the Hereford, and it started out at like 10%, and as we could, we increased that, and we got to 20% or 25%, and then we realised if we mated our yearlings, we could run a separate herd with the bull from day one and not use a beef straw. So the last couple of seasons, or 3 seasons, we've been pretty much having a herd we breed from and a herd we don't breed from. So the herd we don't breed from just gets a Jersey bull from day 1 and 18. But yeah, it makes your submission rate on blue focus not look that great.
Yeah, that was definitely an explanation that I wasn't expecting. And so we can see that and this where your replacements are coming from. So we got this graph from LIC. And what it shows is the BWs of your herd, and then it shows where your replacements for this season have come from. So you can see that 7% have come from the bottom quartile, and then you've got 41% that have come from the top quartile of your BW cows. So you can see that that's really having a big effect. Most of your replacements are coming from your top cows. Often we would see that split 25, 25, 25, 25 or something close to it, because they come from where they come, right?
Yeah, I wasn't real impressed when I seen that. That we've still got heifers coming from low BW animals, but we're not selective on our yearlings, so potentially all the yearlings get straws that we'll get replacements from. So potentially we're having yearlings come through that don't turn out that well, and then I've got to draw on them.
you potentially have some other selection criteria too when you're separating those herds?
Other selection on the yearlings.
Oh no! So when you take out that bottom 50%,
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So it's going to that. It's a lot of it's on BW, but it's also we look at the udders, look at the feet. Like it has to be a sound cow that we're trying to breed from it. Is she going to last another season? Like, is she just going to get culled anyway? Is she like a late calver or a very late calver, and probably going to have like a real average conception rate, and she's an average cow, and then probably better off just going to the bull anyway.
No, perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up for questions in a minute, and we'll just keep chatting. So start thinking of your questions now. But before we do, Peter, do you just want to run us through your sort of approach to mating? So anything that you do that's different coming in.
We keep it pretty simple. Male paint the day before mating starts, and craft out the outfit I need.
Easy. And what about feeding? We've talked a wee bit about feeding here and there. Do you do anything special?
No, I wouldn't say we did. No, not for mating. Short round, right next to heading date, because we know that there's going to be a surplus of grass coming. Because we're low stocked, we want to be able to manage that surplus of grass and eat as much of it as possible. And so, like, the best way to eat as much of it as possible is have as highest quality as possible, and sort of sacrifice that growth that a higher cover would give you for quality. So like maybe we grow a little bit less, but it's high quality, real quick rounds, and hope that we can sort of keep on top of it as the plant goes reproductive.
And do you change your supplements at all?
No, we normally pulled PK out before mating. So yeah, we're not worried about pulling that out prior to mating. I think pasture's got everything a cow needs, and if it's good quality pasture, I'm not worried about pulling PK out like a week or 2 weeks before mating.
Nice. So I guess just to make sure that everyone understands, with our fertility focus report, you've got this beautiful graph where you're on target the whole way through. Wanted to be really clear that target's not average. So target is like the top 10% of farmers, and so we've put up over here some animal efficiency graphs as well, just to compare, how you're sitting compared to our average farmer. So our regional average through here, I think it's on Canterbury, but regional average is 70% for a 6-week in calf rate, and the top quartile is 77. So you're sitting, above that top quartile here for in calf rates. And then if we're looking at not in calf rate, you're also doing really nicely in here for a 10-week mating, sitting really nicely at managing to get most of your cows in calf. So I just wanted to be really clear that it's not an average on the graph to meet that target line. It's an exceptional. So when we were talking about genetic gain, we were talking about your bull choice as well. So did you want to talk about how you choose your bulls for getting the better BW replacements coming through?
So we use the Alpha Nominate product with the LIC. So we're choosing our bulls. We don't specify like the individual cow each bull. We just use pretty much one bull each day. But yeah, go through a bit of a process to pick that team of bulls. We use a mixture of daughter proven and genomic. We use a mixture of breeds. It's mainly crossbreed, but we do put the odd Friesian and the odd Jersey straw to get a bit of hybrid vigour. We pretty well, I get the RAS list, or if I get the LIC version of that Excel file, and order the animals from highest BW to lowest, and then I do a few things like put in a limit, so it's only shown animals that will be positive fertility, and then a few around like udder overall. So udder overall score will have to be more than 0.5, and the dairy confirmation score more than 0.5. And then I just sort through all the bulls that spits out. It's not actually normally that many. Look through their lineage, look through their pedigree, and if they got dams that have real good maternal lines, good number of lactations, real consistent lactations, definitely more likely to pick that bull. Yeah.
Nice. And so on page 31, there's also a graph which isn't up here, but it's around genetic gains. And so you can see there's a blue line at the top, which is Peter's genetic gain on his farm compared to national average. And you can see, especially over those last 4 years that you're talking about, the increase that you've got. So that's the genetic gain of the heifers born that year. And so it's really accelerated. Can you tell me about your philosophy on genomics versus daughter proven?
Yeah, I'm not a breeder. Most breeders I'd say would be pretty well still daughter proven. We're chasing that BW, and there is probably a bit more variability going genomics. Not going to be as consistent, but it also it produces a bell curve that probably has a higher upper quartile as well, and so that gives us selection to choose from. There might be more range, more bottom end. We can cull those out or not breed from them as well. So yeah, it's pretty much about, we use quite a few genomic bulls just to chase that genetic gain. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And so BW, sometimes people don't rate it and sometimes people do, but we did a quartiles report, which is also in the handout, which showed that your top quartile for BW versus your bottom quartile cows were producing an extra 55 milk solids. This was season to date, so there's probably still more gains to come there, but an extra 55 milk solids out of those cows turns into money pretty quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be range. There's always going to be a bell curve, but if you can move that across the right direction, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and really interesting that you're chasing that higher BW, but you're still seeing that gap between the quartiles. It's still quite significant, isn't it? Shows you're chasing the right thing. We're ready to open up for questions, so just chuck your hand up and how'd they go?
Yeah, it was slightly lower results from the sex semen and the cows. Yeah, definitely. Yearlings, I'll continue doing it off the yearlings. We start the yearling mating a week earlier. So it's sort of, if a yearling doesn't get in calf to that sex straw, it sort of hasn't really lost anything. Yeah.
So with your yearlings, you use some sexed and then some nominated?
Yeah, so with that single PG, we're mating for 10 days. So a lot of people would probably like a shorter period. It's less trips to the runoff. But doing it 10 days, the sex you have to take per day, so it sort of maximises the amount of sex straws we can use. We use 7 a day, so 70 sex straws, now 230 yearlings or 240 yearlings.
So I guess those 10 days you're using the time that someone might have been doing pre-mating heats to spend with your yearlings.
Yeah,
instead.
actually, yeah. It's also, a lot of it is also less work at drafting cows. I can come in and draft a herd, only have to stand up there for one herd. It's a lot more enjoyable than standing there for 2 herds. So I'd rather make the yearlings do one herd for 5 weeks than doing the whole herd.
Yep, nice. So you do 5 weeks, and then do you look at your results to sort of have a guess at whether you've got enough replacements through, or you're confident?
Yeah, I try to work out the number of straws I'm going to need to get the replacements. I chuck a bit of a buffer in there. I'd rather have more than I need and better cull the bottom end. So yeah, we monitor that and pretty well order the number of straws we need, and then go a little bit longer to get through those straws pretty well.
Cool. All right, question time. Cool, up the front here. So that was, do you use Jersey bulls over the cows that you don't AI?
Yeah, so 2-year-old Jersey bulls. Yeah. Yeah, so we've always had 2 Springer mobs anyway. So the question was, how do we manage that in spring and calving? Not getting calves mixed up, I guess. But yeah, we've always had 2 Springer mobs just for the number of calves and then trying to identify the calf to the mum. So if you had 40 calves in a paddock, just always, so now we still have 2 Springer mobs, but 1 Springer mob is on AI and 1 Springer mob is AI. And then the yearlings can get into those mobs as well, or heifers now.
Good question, thank you. Now, just step closer so that we don't squawk. Yeah.
That again, definitely myself. You don't do pre-mating heats, which I suppose I'm going to ask the question, why not, and what does it mean for you? And how much effort goes in at breeding time? Like, are you out with the herd at all? Are you join those dots?
I guess like the consistency of being here and not being on different farms and being unsure on how things are going to go maybe leads into it a little bit, but I've never been that concerned that things are going wrong to worry about pre-mating heats just to check. It's quite a bit of work. Yeah. Next part was the how much effort goes in during mating. No, I'm not. Yeah, so no, we don't go out into the paddock and see who's cycling. I've done it a little bit before, but don't make a thing of it. Pretty well, I just turn up at the cow shed and pick what's on heat that day. It's sort of, I normally do it because it's everyone's already busy in the milking roster, so it's something that I can come in and everyone else's workload stays the same.
Awesome. So I was just going to comment, when we've talked about genetic gain at the moment, we've sort of got these 5 key drivers that we like to talk about, and I think we've covered off quite a few of them here, Peter. So the best BW sires, which is using the bulls that you're picking, the best cows as the dam, so making sure that those replacements are coming from your better cows, having good records. There's quite a cool graph that LIC shared with us where about 10% of the calvings in the country happen on the 1st of August, which is miraculous. And then using DNA testing to make sure we're keeping the right replacements is the 4th one. The 5th one's about measuring cow performance. So do you want to comment on perhaps herd testing and weighing?
Yeah, so we herd test 4 times a year. It's quite a cost. Probably could get away with doing it 3 times and it'd still be pretty well accurate. We weigh the herd, so we run them over the scales. We brought a crush from Tapari, just put that on the exit race and set of scales and just weigh every cow individually once a year. Do that in January. I think that information is real important for getting accurate production worth, which also feeds into the BW. And it was especially important when we weren't DNAing, because if you have a mismatched animal, its live weight's quite out. It can have like a massive impact on its PW. I'd much sooner do a live weight and another herd test. So like if I was doing 2 herd tests, I'd think you'd have more value out of weighing your cows. It's probably going to have similar costs than someone else to do it.
Awesome. And so then how do you use that information? Is it just a culling information or do you use it through the year?
The live weight feeds straight into the BW as soon as you update it on Winder. So the BW and PW we're using to make our selection decisions for mating, and then also culling. Yeah, probably cull 40, 50 cows that are in calf a year.
Nice. And do you sell them or do you cull them?
Cull them.
Yeah. All right, we have time for about 2 more questions. If they're out there. Otherwise, if you don't want to get rained on. No, we've got one here.
Just for reference, to everyone, because we'll probably want to scarper inside before you get wet. Is that, I know we've got here today and you don't want the cows roaring at us, but is that your spring 1500? It looks like pre-grazing was high.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit too much there. Yeah. It was pretty good. Yeah, pretty good pre-grazing. Good. Been regrassed recently and it grows well. It's better. So.
The second question is, do you have probes? I noticed there's something squirting water out behind me.
We're part of a water scheme and we have to order our water. So I wasn't that certain that we're going to get rain today. So the pivots are running. But as soon as I can cancel my water order, it will be cancelled. But yeah, our probes we've got 2 probes on the farm and they're pretty high at the moment. Yeah, definitely right at the upper end of the field capacity. But it's just we've had heaps of grass grub issues at the moment, so really just trying to keep them down.
you haven't considered collars at all. I assume it's part of your low-cost system. You're obviously doing very well without any help from that, but have you ever thought about full-flex collars or halter or anything like that?
Yeah, I like herd testing and mating. I used to like dread, but then like I started getting interested in the genetic gain and breeding better animals. And I actually quite enjoy it now. I actually quite enjoy standing on the stand and picking those cows and seeing on who's on heat and who I can put, which bull I can use that day. So I'm not, I don't see a lot of value in using collars at all for the system. There's certainly systems where it would provide benefit, I'm sure, but for us, not at the moment.
Thank you. I think, like, as a closing comment from you, that really sums up what we've been focusing on all day, which is just focusing on simple systems that give you a return each time, and it's across the board, isn't it, across your system? So I'd like to ask Will Green to come up and give us some summary remarks on this morning's sessions. He's hiding out the back somewhere, maybe. What's that? Sorry, do you want to go inside? Okay, so we'll head back to the shed, sit you down for 5 minutes to hear Will's words of wisdom.